So good evening. I want to thank everyone for being here this evening. We have we have joined here this evening to talk with some of our veterans. We want to thank everyone who's coming, and we're going to discuss this evening uh, the exploring the veterans journey from the military service to SMART. We want to recognize that it is National Veterans and Military Families Month. There's a lot of military veterans out there. There are many family members that have served, or how we feel as veterans, that our family members serve as well as we do when we were deployed or whatever we were doing in the world. Our families also were serving. This evening, we're going to do it'll be a panel and questions. What we're going to do is we'll have discussion topics. We're going to ask a series of questions, and each of our panelists will have an opportunity to answer on certain questions or jump in where they'd like. We're going to have a discussion on some of the veteran service organizations that are currently in existence that assist our military veterans when they're transitioning into the trades, and specifically to SMART. And then we're going to have a question and answer format at the very end. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our military veterans here with us, and I'm going to go as I see you on the screen here. So Jan, please give us an introduction.
Thank you, Darrell. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jan Schfell. I was in the United States Navy from 1985 through 2001. I did both active duty and reserves. I currently work out of Local 85 in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm the vice president, the women's committee chair, and I have a couple of collateral duties besides that. I'm glad y'all are here.
Thank you, Jan. Dave Goodspeed.
Good evening, everybody. Dave Goodspeed, Director of Production Workers with SMART. I was a 14-year member of the U.S. Army Reserves from 83 through 97. My MOSs were 71 Lima and 94 Bravo, Administrative Specialist and Cook.
Thanks, Dave. And real quick, Dave, could you define an MOS to us real quick?
Military Occupational Specialty, and I know that it's got there's a different name for it or a different designation for it in I believe in the Air Force. I'm not so sure about the Navy, but
thanks, Dave. Yeah, and I think what will happen, and we'll do our best, but as sometimes as a veteran, you actually slip up and you start talking in a bunch of acronyms, which I know everyone enjoys if they don't know what you're talking about. So we'll do our best. Thanks, David. Dave Moore, please.
Dave Moore, E5, United States Army, 8 years of service, sheet metal worker in Cleveland, Ohio, Local 33, Be for All committee member. Proud to serve our union and my country.
Thank you very much, Dave. And Dave, how important is what's this conversation tonight mean to you? Does it pull on anything for you?
It means everything to me. The service, going into the service made me completely grow up and be ready for challenges as you turn into an adult. And I just want everyone to know that the avenue of coming in and being a tradesperson and coming through the service, it just makes it better for you, and you're really able to understand the challenges. It just means everything to me. You know, the teamwork that we get now with our Be for All group, and you know, you're able to just take the teamwork everywhere. We're able to accomplish tasks and get stuff done. It's phenomenal to me. The trades, the service, it means everything to me, and I just hope that we can continue to get more people involved.
Thank you, Dave. Normand.
Sorry, I was on mute. That'll take you. Hi, guys. I'm Norm Trepanier. I'm also a veteran I joined the Royal Canadian Artillery in the Canadian Army in 1975, and I retired in 2012 for 37 years service. And I enjoyed every minute of it. From the last 10 years as I was the chief warrant officer, or the Army will E9, if I call like your rank there, and I was on the education side of it. So I was on the leadership and management side of it for the last 10 years in the service. I joined in 2013 the Helmets to Hardhats program, great program helping vets, where I'm going to talk a little bit about it later on, but great program. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be part of the Be of Veteran.
Norman, thank you very much, and thanks for joining us. I know that Canada has a proud work going on with Helmets to Hardhats and helping many of our veterans, brothers and sisters who are there. So thank you very much. Joshua Moore, please.
Good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Joshua Moore. I'm with the ITI. I'm a field representative and the Smart Hero Specialist. So help with that program and GI Bill benefits for people in the training centers. I was in the Army from 1995 to 2002, engineer. And this conversation to me is important because I think the more information you have getting out, obviously, the better off you are. Because I know myself, joining the military wasn't a tough decision. Getting out was. Getting out of the military and making that transition was a tough decision to make. And the more, resources that veterans have coming out, I think just the better off they are. And our union putting this together and getting this information out to you guys is, I think, very important and beneficial. And I'm glad to be a part of the conversation and a solution to some of your problems if you run into any with VA or anything like that.
Yeah, Josh, I'm really glad you're here this evening. I got to tell you that I'm very excited to hear more about the Smart Heroes program, and it's something I believe strongly in. I mean, when you think about what Smart's doing to directly impact active duty military members when they're making that transition, and the work that ITI does, the local 66,
Local 9.
Local 9 as well, the work they're doing on the military bases. And that's not always easy. I mean, to work with those military bases, and you're trying to get active duty military person in there to train them. So the work you're doing is great, and I'm excited to talk about that a little bit later.
Thank you, sir.
Josh Garner.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name's Josh Garner. I served in the United States Navy from 1994 to 1998. I was on active duty. I was a hull tech, and I actually worked in a sheet metal shop. Where we would fabricate parts and make repairs on the ships when they came in from deployment. After leaving the Navy, I moved back to Wisconsin, my home state. I became a member of Local 18, served an apprenticeship, became a foreman, actually taught welding part-time to our apprentices, skills that came directly from my training in the Navy. I was always active in our union. And I was an organizer for Local 18. I became the financial secretary treasurer. And then in 2020, I came on staff with the International as an international organizer. And then earlier this year, elevated to the role of Region 2 Director of Organizing for SMART. So I'm excited about the conversation tonight. I think I've seen firsthand that transition from the military to the trades. I see that the trades are a great way for veterans to get that new mission, part of a new team, and gives them a real sense of purpose. So looking forward to everything tonight.
Thank you, Josh. That was a really good introduction. As a hull tech, and you look at those skill sets that transition well, I know that's one of them. So I'm excited to hear a little more about that later on. So thank you. Dave Burnett.
Yes, sir. So, I joined the Marine Corps in February '83, following graduation from high school. Spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. In the Marine Corps, I was a turbine mech, so I worked the ground crew for a fixed wing squadron of F-4 fighters. Did that for the 4 years. Did the deployments in and out of the Westpac, Western Pacific. Came out of the Marine Corps. Got a job at the VA hospital based on military status, right? Being a vet. Did that from February of '87 until I got into the apprenticeship in July of '87, and that was my road into sheet metal. And currently, I serve as a chief international rep.
Thank you, Dave. So, Dave, you told me your job, I think when we spoke earlier, was essentially you worked on jet engines that started jet engines.
Right.
You got those. And I had said to Dave at the time, even though I was on an aircraft carrier when I served, that, I was like, wait a minute. So in that movie, The Maverick, the second Top Gun movie, where they're like shot down and they run down onto the airfield and they get the Tom Cruise runs over and starts the one jet engine, tells the guy to go pay attention to the Tomcat. That's what you worked on. You worked on that machine that started the other jet, or the jet
Yeah,
itself.
that's gas turbine compressor. Yeah.
It amazes me all the things that happen in the military that are necessary for us to defend and protect our nation, and those pieces are absolutely necessary for us to do the things needed. And I never would have thought about that. I think I know a lot about the military, but I never thought about that. And when I saw in the movie, I was like, what the hell is that thing? So that's very cool. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Doug, please.
Right, thanks, Darrell. Hey, I'm Doug Johns. I was in the Navy from 1993 to 1995 as a deck seaman on a submarine tender on Guam, tropical island. So I pretty much spent my time on the beach. After I got out of the Navy, I jumped into the trades when a buddy of mine from MEPS actually talked me into coming to work for a mechanical contractor as an insulator. And I've been doing it since. Right now, I am a senior project manager with Southland Industries, where I think we're third on the ENR top 50 list for mechanical contractors in the nation right now. And that's me in a nutshell.
Doug, that's great. I'm well aware of Southland, great company, and I'm glad you're able to join us here this evening and give us a perspective that you see as a contractor viewpoint of how military veterans work with you. But it always I find it funny that you're like, I was in the Navy, I served on the beach. I was but in Guam, maybe not, not a lot of things there at some points in time. But the one thing that you'd mentioned, you said a buddy with me from MEPS. Do you want to tell us what MEPS is?
That's just the in processing that we've all been through. You're right, we do speak in acronyms at some points, but I joined when I was in Orange County, California, graduated high school, went to the in processing, which is the MEPS where we all do our medical and our physicals, and drove down to San Diego. And I was friends with him for decades when we got out of the Navy, but I've since lost track of him.
Very cool. Thank you, sir. And thanks for joining us this evening. Jason Basalt.
Thanks, Darrell. My name is Jason Busalt. I currently serve as the Financial Secretary Treasurer and Assistant General Chairperson on General Committee 2, the Railroad Mechanical and Engineering Department of SMART. I grew up in a small town in upstate New York in Hyde Park. Served in the Navy for 4 years from 2003 to 2007 as a hull technician as well. I did 2 tours over to the Arabian Gulf and Somalia, Kenya in 2004 and 2007. Spent about a month and a half as one of the 3 ships appeared up in New Orleans for Hurricane Katrina relief. Decided to get out. That enough travel was done in 4 years for me. I was ready. I was done. I got out in 2007, went back to construction. I grew up in the trades. And in 2013, I decided to join the railroad and went into the railroad on Metro North Railroad as a sheet metal worker. Moved up to the local chairman for my local, which was Local 31 in about 2015. It was around 2019, I got elected to the executive board for General Committee 2, which I currently serve full-time on. And then 2002, I moved on up full-time to the position I'm at now. And I have the military to thank for every bit and piece of it. I truly believe that. And I'm honored to be on this call with each and every one of you.
Thank you, Jason. A fact you'll hear here is, or you'll come to understand, is that when I get into my introduction, is that there's actually 3 hull techs on the phone tonight, or as panelists this evening. Josh Garner is a hull tech out of the Navy, and hull technician. Jason was a hull technician, and I was a hull technician. Started out, born and raised in Kentucky, joined the Navy to get away. Right, it was a chance for me to start over. And in 1990, at the ripe age of 18, I joined the Navy, and went to Philadelphia for my A school, and it's actually kind of funny because that's where my local is now, local 19. But I went to the Naval Yard when it was there, and that's where I learned. First got in sheet metal welding, brazing, fitting. There's a lot of work that as hull technicians that we basically take care of all the pieces that are happening on a ship, right? From the duct work to many other structural pieces. It's a lot of work there. And I served 4 years in the Navy. I did went from Philadelphia to Newport News, Virginia, where I was I was in a shipyard, Newport News, Virginia shipyard, and the USS George Washington was being built, CVN 73. The carrier, it was a nuclear vessel, and was there for quite some time. We commissioned the ship, so I'm a plank owner, which means that someday when they retire the vessel, if I'm still living, I get to go down and take something from the ship, but that's about all it means. And then after I was on the USS George Washington, I went to Little Creek for a little bit and worked there with some team guys. And then I went out to the West Coast and I went to Buds for some time. After I got out of the Navy, I had met my wife there, while I was in the Navy, and we moved to Pennsylvania, where she's from. And that's where I got into the trades. But additionally, I joined the Army National Guard, and I served 5 years in the infantry for the Army National Guard. And then in March of 03, I got orders and was deployed to the active duty Army for a year and was part of Task Force Falcon, deployed to Kosovo. And I was a squad leader for an infantry company for about 8 months and some days in country. And then came home. And then while I was back in the field, we'll talk a little bit later in the discussion, but when I went back and I got back into the field working, I was still in the field for a couple more years, and then I started working with Helmets to Hardhats. And we'll talk a little bit about Helmets to Hardhats tonight, but that's where I first got it started in helping our veterans. So let's talk for a moment. Again, thank you all, our panelists, for sharing your information and for being here this evening. Let's talk for a minute about some statistics, right, about our veterans, right? When we talk about the transition as a military veteran to the skilled trades, and specifically our trade, SMART, when we talk about that, and to our union and to our contractors, right, when we talk about our signatory contractors, with Doug being here, that when we talk about that transition, some of the numbers that are out there, there's about 200,000 veterans that transition a year, military personnel. 200,000. And that is from one end of the gambit to the other. The majority of those people that transition, they're probably around 20, they're in their 20s, and they're typically married and have a couple of kids. Some of them have spent 30 or 20 years. Some have spent their 20 years there and are retiring. But the vast majority of those, the large majority, are those who have served there for about 4 years. And there are about 1,273,000 active duty military members. And that's with the Army being the largest, and then the Navy, the Air Force, Marine Corps, Space Force. We have Coast Guard members who come and serve, and we consider them as part of DOD, but it's really they're really in Department of Homeland Security, but we consider that military service as well. And of those individuals, 81.6% of those people that served, of that 1 million plus, they're enlisted. All right, and so to define that, I can say it real quick. The enlisted side is the working side, right? That's the labor side. And I'm shortchanging our officers. That's not fair of me, but the enlisted side is the non-commissioned officer side. Your sergeants, your corporals, your privates, things of that along those nature. I got a laughy face going up. Someone got the joke. And then you have 18.4% of those are officers, and they are your commissioned officers. They typically went to college or somewhere along the line. They are hardworking, and enlisted and officers will often go back and forth in regards to cake eaters and the working class and so forth, and it's just fun. When it comes down to it, we all work hard together, and the mission doesn't get done without that leadership of our officers and our non-commissioned officers as well. And so many good officers out there that I'm sure are on this call as well. And of those personnel, the average age of an active duty person is about 28 years old, and you see it from all over the country, right? I'm sure my fellow panelists here will talk to the point that it's very true that you meet some of your best friends from all over the world, right, or all over the country, right? Like I was from a small town in Kentucky, but I had some of my best friends were from Chicago, they were from Iowa, they were from California, Puerto Rico, like they were everywhere, right? And you meet these people and you connect with them. And when you think about the breakdown of those individuals, it's you just never know, right? You just never know where you're going to meet someone from. And that breakdown is around 82.3% are men and about 17.7% are women. And many of the women serve in those combat roles. They're on ships. They're out there. They're pilots. They're serving right there, shoulder to shoulder with their male counterparts and getting the work done, right? And it's a life cycle that you enter into. And when the panelists and I discussed us having this call tonight, we said, how do we best define it? Well, let's give you a little bit of numbers and let's talk about the life cycle of a military person. And the life cycle basically very, very short steps. You're in high school, you're getting out of high school, or maybe you're a little bit older and you see maybe a recruiter or someone talks to you, or you try to find an escape or whatever you may do. And everyone's story is different, but you get recruited and you go to boot camp. And at boot camp, right, you go to MEPS, which Doug talked about, where they do all the medical and doc and all those things. You take a test, you go in, they tell you what kind of school you want to go to, and then you go to boot camp. And essentially, Josh, how did you put it when we spoke about it? What was the phrase you said?
They break you down, they tear you down to build you back up.
Yeah. They teach you teamwork, and by all means, any panelists can jump in here if they want to give their 2 cents on boot camp. But you get through boot camp and you make some lifelong friends there. After that boot camps, you go to your advanced training. And that advanced training was what I spoke to earlier when I was in Philadelphia at the Naval Shipyard, when I learned about sheet metal and welding. And then you go to your command. And every time you go to your command, you're doing the job necessary for the military to operate and to function. And you're a part of a team. You understand responsibility. You start understanding chain of command and teamwork and those soft skills that are really important to us. And then toward the end of your career, whether you stay 4 years, 8 years, 10 years, whatever it might be, you have a decision to make. And the military will try to hold on to you, and some will decide they want to leave. And that is that transition time that can be very tumultuous. It can be hard for a military veteran to find SMART, to find the sheet metal workers, to find our signatory contractors. And that's what we want to make sure we're doing the best at, that we can, to make it better. So let's get into some questions. Let's talk about the veteran's journey from the service to the skilled trades. And I'm just going to ask of our panelists here, what motivated your transition to the trades? Just someone wants to jump in, tell me a little bit about what motivated them to transition to SMART.
Yeah, I can if you want to hear
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, basically, I was getting out of the Marine Corps, and I had what they call terminal leave, right? Which I had not taken leave for the past 18 months. I saved that up thinking I'm going to get out of the military. I'm going to try to get a job. If I can't get a job within a month and a half, I'm going back in, re-enlist, and try to go to a school that will accelerate my promotions, right? So as I got out, that transition meant that I at that time I had a wife and a 6-month-old child. So I needed a good paying job and I needed benefits. And I jumped right into the VA for a couple months. And then from the VA, I actually met a couple of the contractors that were SMACNA contractors that were bidding a project at this VA hospital. And that was my first interaction. Then I enrolled into the apprenticeship program, and from there it's history. But yeah, it was the need was the money, right?
And that's completely understandable. I think anyone on this panel can say that, look, I needed to be able to feed my family or myself and do something to continue forward with life, right? I completely makes sense. And I just want to note that our moderators have put in the chat. If you have any questions, please follow the instructions in the chat, and we'll get to those questions later on. Did anyone else want to talk about what motivated them to transition to the trades?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak on it. Jason Busall speaking. I grew up in the trades, growing up in the country area of, New York, upstate on the river, and then after 9/11 happened, me and a handful of my buddies decided, all right, well, let's go do something about this. So we all pretty much grew up in the trades, went in, and going back to what you mentioned before, the people you meet and the people you see throughout, being during your service. I mean, some of my best friends are from there. They're not even friends, they're family. And a quick story, I remember jumping off a bus on our way home from Iraq and Spain, rode to Spain for a washdown. And there's one of my buddies I grew up with in the Marines at an ATM and rode to Spain, halfway around the world. I just was like, Paul, his name's Paul Mashburn. It's like, what the hell are you doing here? It's like, the same thing you're doing here. Heading home. But yeah, after our service, and I came back home, went right back to the private sector trades, and only way you're going to make decent money or make a living is if you own a company, or and you're going to kill yourself doing it. So I ended up, the railroad was the answer, and I got the idea just literally watching the movie Unstoppable. Go figure.
Mm.
And I've been taking Metro North my whole life. I was like, oh well, I never even thought about this, and because of my military service, I was hired on there pretty quick. They took that into account, and off I went.
Very nice. Thank you, Jason. All right. So next, let's talk a little bit about what are some of the challenges you faced in your transition, and then if you could, how did you overcome them?
Well, I could definitely speak to this, and it wasn't. Everyone has their own, story and situations. When I got back from, I got out and came home 2007. I didn't really take any time for myself. I was like, yeah, everything's going to be fine. The transition back to civilian life. And you go 2 weeks later, I'm right back working. And it takes a little bit of transition. It's a culture shock. It's a culture shock going in, and it's another culture shock coming back out. And what I didn't realize was, I'm expecting all these things to be done a certain way and certain kind of leadership and everything else, and it's just not there. And everyone around me is doing everything different. And just it took 2007 till 2013 till I figured out like what I was missing. I was missing that structure that kind of formed my military life, and putting serving and providing something for the community and doing something meaningful again. So that's it's not so much a PTSD as much of a culture shock as it can be coming out. I don't think a lot of people realize that or actually look into that, right? They just take it for granted and keep rolling, no matter what kind of assistance you get. So trying to pick that ball back up and figuring it out, I mean, that was a bit to overcome, but it definitely paid off once you figure it out.
No, I hear you. I tell you, so on my transition, it was one of the reasons I decided to work with Helmets to Hardhats in the first place was, the transition was hard, right? I had a young wife, and it was, as you said, it was a culture shock. And, when you're getting out, you're like, what do I do? Where do I go? And there was a point in time, our government didn't do a really good job in helping people transition. Now that has since changed, I believe. I honestly believe that the national unemployment rate for veterans is normally lower than their civilian counterparts. But, it was hard. And it took some real good mentors and other people to assist me with it. But before we go much further, and Dave, I see you putting a hand up, but I want to real quick point out, I had mentioned that if you have a question, and I might have said something about chat, but what you want to go with, there's a question and answer button down on the bottom, sort of over toward the right there. That's where you want to click. You can't put it in chat, but you can go to that question and answer button there on the bottom area, and Q&A it says, and you can put your stuff in there. Dave Burnett, did you want to say something? Were you going to add something?
Yeah, I'll say something. So and this might sound odd or backwards, but so I remember coming out of the military and coming into an apprenticeship program, being 22 years old with a wife and a 6-month-old child, and realizing that. So when I was coming out of the Marine Corps, I was a non-commissioned officer, so I was a corporal, NCO, and I ran a department, right? Which is a big thing. NCO in the Marine Corps is a big
deal,
right?
It's a big deal.
And you got responsibilities and you got to account for people. But so when you came into the apprenticeship program, that's all gone, right? Now you're basically a bottom feeder, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just in comparison, like like, wait a second, I'm sitting here in a group of 18-year-olds that probably never left town. And so that culture shock of not being in charge anymore, really, you had to readjust your head. Otherwise, you were gonna get crushed, right? So I just learned that, hey, there's a process and a system here, the same way there was when you went into the service. Somewhat like Jason was saying, like you got a transition going into the service, and then you got a transition coming back out of it, and either deprogram yourself or put your ego in check, or you're going to
Sure.
get right. But just that's what I encountered.
Yeah, it's a good point. And there's another piece I want to talk about as a guards person coming back from civilian, being in the military for a year, active duty, being in a very serious situation, and then coming back to the civilian side. And that deprogramming part is very important. But we got to move on to our next question for the panel. And how did your military experience prepare you for this career? And I know we have some great examples, but we had one that I thought really stood out.
Darrell, I think I could speak to that pretty well. As I said, I worked in a sheet metal shop. So it was when I got out, obviously, like everyone said, I needed to find a job and make some money. I didn't know much about unions other than the fact that if you were going to work in construction or the trades, you probably wanted to be in a union because you were going to have better pay and benefits, which I was accustomed to in the military. We had the best healthcare that I knew at that point. And so I opened up the phone book. First company was Advanced Mechanical, started with A in the yellow pages back then. And when I walked into the shop for the interview, it was almost an identical uh, replication of my shop in the Navy. All the equipment was the same. The tools were all the same. And what I noticed real quickly was the foundation I had from my training in the Navy was the same when I went into the apprenticeship. We did layout, uh, all the presses, the shears. As I said, the tools were all the same. The attention to detail that we needed to fabricate, the tolerances, all of that stuff was identical. The welding processes, the welding machines, it was all the same equipment. So it really gave me a leg up in the apprenticeship. It helped to accelerate my training. Um, while some of the stuff that we fabricated and built was a little bit different in regards to the ship to the commercial HVAC, but everything was pretty much the same, and it gave me that foundation. And what I also noticed was a lot of the structure was the same as a lower rank. That was like our apprentices. They're in their learning stages. Our mid ranks in the military were the job runners and four persons, and then senior leadership, your superintendents and so on. So while the tools and the equipment and the foundation of our trade was the same, the structure of how the union apprenticeship and structures in the shop was the same as well. So it yeah, it was very beneficial.
Thank you, Josh. And for anyone listening, I gave Josh a pretty hard time about his transition. It's a good one. I'm very happy for him, but it was I think the quote I had was silver spoon, very silver spoonish, that everything was exactly the same. So, but no, look, all our stories are a little different, right? And at the end of the day, if we can, and Josh, thanks for sharing that with us, because it's not easy, right? Regardless of how everything was similar, it's never really truly easy, all the way. So to our next question, I really want to throw out here is, there's probably some listeners here thinking like, I got a kid maybe in the military, or I got a nephew, or I got maybe a spouse or someone, right? So what advice would we give to other transitioning military service members? What's some advice we would give?
I'd jump in on that one, Darrell, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, First off, if looking to enter an apprenticeship, is get their certificate of eligibility, so they can start receiving those VA benefits that they qualify for education benefits, post 9/11 GI Bill, Montgomery GI Bill. They can do all of that on va.gov. Up in the top right-hand corner, there's a search bar. They can search for a certificate of eligibility. They'll fill out the form. They'll submit that, and they'll get that. They'll give that to their training coordinator. And that's what they have to do. Once they start recording hours, they'll start getting reported and they'll start getting that pay. And right now for an apprenticeship, that is E5 with 2 dependents is what you'll receive for your compensation. So not on top of your hourly wages, you also receive that E5 BAH with which is basic allowance of housing. And what that goes by is that goes by the zip code of where the training center is. So if you live in a rural area, but your training centers in the city or an urban area, you're probably going to receive a little bit more money. So that is beneficial. And that can help with that pay gap as you get into that apprenticeship. We'll talk a little bit about Smart Heroes and how that program can help you with that a little bit further, a little bit later on in the conversation. But I would also advise them to get an idme.gov account and a va.gov account. Those are all accounts that I think are beneficial to a veteran. You mentioned it earlier, Darrell. VA has gotten so much better at helping our veterans out and getting them information, getting them benefits. Right now, we are seeing a little bit of a delay in benefit payment. It used to be about 7 days. It's up to about 27 days right now, but I think we all know why that happens, and hopefully it'll get back to normal. But that would be my advice to someone transitioning out of the military is make sure they get these benefits and everything in line. We get again later on in the conversation, we'll talk about some things you're eligible for if you're disabled. If you get a VA disability rating, some other things you can qualify for. That would be my advice, Darrell.
Joshua, I think that's great advice. And so just so I'm clear, and our listeners and our people here tonight are clear, you're saying that not only will I get paid for being in the apprenticeship, doing my normal work, my schooling and everything along those lines, I'm going to receive a second paycheck from the government?
That's correct. And if you have a VA disability rating, you can also be receiving a third check. So again, we can talk about we can discuss all that later. I don't want to eat up your time here. But
No, you're good. I really wanted to nail that home. I mean, that is crazy, man. You're talking about the government's going to pay you to be in your apprenticeship. We definitely got to celebrate that.
Yeah, so, again, that's E5, regardless if your rank was E3. It's E5 with 2 dependents, and that's BHH. That's your basic allowance for housing in that area.
Right,
so
that's for enlisted, right? That's all enlisted side.
That's for enlisted, yes. And either get on va.gov, use the GI Bill calculator, and realize and find out if you're if post 9/11 or the just straight Montgomery GI Bill would be more beneficial for you. There's a calculator on there you can utilize as well.
Thanks, Joshua, and we'll come back a little bit to you, but that's great information. I appreciate it. Let's talk a little bit about that contractor and industry perspective, right? Let's get into for our signatory contractor side for once the person's there, why is it important? So let's start with why are veterans vital? Why are they a vital part of the skilled trades workforce?
I'm gonna jump in on this one if you don't mind. There,
please.
Veterans. I'm going to touch on a couple of things that were said before me. Like Dave Moore said, they come out and they are adults at this time, right? So when people are getting into the trades as kids, they might not be as mature as some of the people we're getting as our veterans. And the things that we learn, like Josh Garner learned his trade in the Navy, and he comes out and he's got his discipline down, and he's going to be on time, and he's going to pay the attention to detail. And on top of all of this other stuff, we're problem solvers, right? In the military, you see something that needs to be done and you get it fixed, whether it's fixing a ship or rust busting or whatever we did when we were in the service. And the other greatest thing that we have being veterans is we're very adaptable. And that touches to something you said, Darrell, where your friends can be from New York or wherever. You pick up a little bit of something from everybody, and that makes it so you can roll with the punches and deal with whatever comes your way. So that's what makes veterans great for the trades in particular.
Doug, thank you. That's very insightful. So that's a great piece. But so we're sitting here, we're talking about acronyms, and I'm an employer. How do I translate that? How can I recognize and translate military acronyms or job skills? How do I do that?
I have a suggestion, Darrell.
Sure.
The helmets to hard hats. Helmets to hard hats. They have a tool where we can look at MOSs. They'll give us a translation on what that'll translate to into the trades. We just had our third quarter meeting this morning with Helmets to Hard Hats, and they're coming up with an additional tool for this as well on their website that can help. I think someone mentioned the MOS, their military occupational specialty. So they can translate that and see what military skills translate into the different skilled trades and building trades. And we'll talk about who we see with Smart Heroes, but again, all walks of life come to the military, and we're seeing all walks of life come into the trades, and it's a great time, man.
Excellent. And that's a great line of assistance there, right? Be able to go to the website, find those pieces. So I've got the veterans make the train. Oh, go ahead,
Darrell,
Josh.
if I could, I just to add to kind of what Doug was talking about or on that theme, something I guess that I didn't necessarily mention in how training helped me in my transition. There's things like soft skills that we all learn in the military that we don't actually realize we're learning when we're in the moment, but things like organization, attention to detail, accountability, being on time, leadership, everything. It's a leadership structure, and I think that translates perfectly to what I think our contractors are looking for and why veterans are a great addition to their workforce. So I just wanted to touch on.
I agree.
If I may too,
Please.
Be in the same line as Josh there, a veteran, all right, are most important talent pipeline into the skilled trade workforce because they have all the background and technical experience they gain while they serve. Just like Josh said, there's a soft skill, discipline, work ethic. They show on time. They know how to wear boots and be on time on job. That's the most important thing. And I think the employer should look at that and make sure to they understand where the guys come from.
Perfect. These are all great points. I'll tell you, so we got the veteran, we got the skill translator, we're bringing them in, they're in their apprenticeship, everything else. So what's the level of importance on mentorship and culture and retaining the veterans? How do we keep them? What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah. Go ahead, Norman. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, as far as I'm concerned, veterans come from a system where they promote mentorship at all levels. When you serve on your military operation, they require personnel that adapt quickly and readjust to any changing situation. So the leaders at all levels must ensure that subordinate can take over the job on a short notice. Good leader routinely will hand over the reins to the subordinate and will allow them to plan and conduct operation when need be, right? So as far as I'm concerned, the process built good leaders. Dedication, commitment to success, mission before self are examples that easily apply to civilian life. And the veteran will remain where they are if the contractor, the operator can put all those mindset to the sorry, I lost track here, but can be easily to remain with them so they don't have to quit. They'll leave where they are because they are well coached, they well mentors, and they love it.
Sure. Thank you, Norman.
Sorry if I lost track there. My apology.
No, I think we followed you pretty well. And Dave, you had a point. I think you and I had spoken about a mentorship piece that really impacted you.
Yes, sir. When I came into the trades, I ran into a gentleman, Dave Limley. He was a Navy guy. He did everything. He did his time in the service, and I got lucky enough to get him in my second year at the company I was at. We had 5 two-man crews, and Dave was like one of the main ball busters. Like, there ain't no other way to say it. You know what I mean? His way was the highway, but he got work done. He was able to manage 3 or 4 jobs at one time, and he taught me all those skills. That guy brought my military bearing back because I had got off track for a while, and he just got me together. And then being able to, from being in the trades and be like, man, this is what we got to do today. This is where we need to be at by Friday. This is what we need to be doing next week. Having those conversations in a really close quarter situation, it just made it so much easier for me, because it was like, this is how we do it. This is what I got to do. He tells me what to do. Wow, how the heck did it come together that way? Because you just have to have the trust and the faith that the guy you're with is teaching you the proper way, the proper channels, and he just you have to understand
He
too
mentored
that
you.
they just want you to be successful.
Sure.
And at the time, sometimes just when you're a young guy, you're like, man, this guy, I don't know about him, but years later, we went on vacation together. He was there for when my wife and I got married. I was there with him on the last day he worked before his retirement. He was just one of those guys that meant the world to me, and it was very much a pleasure and honor to have him teach me and help me become who I am in this trade and this craft today.
That's awesome to hear that there was another military veteran that mentored you, helped create a culture that you could relate to, and bring back that military bearing that you felt that you had lost. I think that's amazing. And that can be done by anyone, right? Any leader I feel. I've met many leaders when I was in the field as well. And even today at the IA, leaders who remind me of so much of, like, they weren't in the military, but they have that drive and they have that organizational skill and they understand, structure. And it's just amazing. Good stuff.
And you also understand when they hand it to you, the responsibility that you're given. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? And that's what it's about, coming up as an apprentice and, wanting to become the foreman or the superintendent. You have to understand that it's a result-driven business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If your contractor ain't making money, they don't need us. So let's do our job the best we can, attention to detail, showing up on time, looking presentable when you're there. Just all of that stuff makes you a good tradesperson. And that's what we need. And the service definitely helped me pull myself together.
Well, I'll tell you what, the moderators are here. When you take the recording of this, that's your commercial right there. Dave's commercial, that piece right there. You take that 30-second bit. We got our commercial. Launch. Put it out there. Get it on social media. Let's make it happen. So, we've talked about active duty. We talked about transition. We talked about these other pieces, but there's a part here, right? A National Guard person, a reservist. So let's talk a little bit about them. Let's talk about, how does a reservist or a National Guard member differ from an active duty military member? Can someone approach that for me?
So Darrell, I'll take that question. So I think the primary difference for our Guard and reservist members is that they're acting in a civilian soldier hybrid capacity. So the old draft era paradigm that I came up in, which was about 40 or 50 days of training per year, that's given way to the post 9/11 deployment paradigm, where it's not draft era anymore, it's voluntary service. So we're seeing our members get deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, duty stations away from those main theaters, and even stateside now with the Guard deployments to different cities in the U.S. Maybe another way to look at this is the last time that the Guard and reserves were deployed during a major theater conflict where there was a draft, which was Vietnam. There were 12,000 soldiers deployed, a little over 12,000 between the reserves and the Guard. From 9/11 on, there were 1.2 million reservists and Guard soldiers deployed. So it's multiplied by 100-fold over Vietnam. And really what that's done is, because of the civilian component, these deployments they've had an impact on the working lives of our civilian soldier members.
And that's a great point, David. So as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, okay, and I was one of those 1 million plus members that was, taken from my job and sent away for over a year. So essentially what we have are members within SMART who are reservist or a National Guards person, right? And they are serving 1 week in a month, which really doesn't impact a contractor and their employer too much, because it's a weekend, right? So you're out if you might miss some overtime, or If you're in production, you might miss, a shift or something, right? There's a weekend though. It's not too impactful. And then one time a year, they're required to go 2 weeks, 2 full weeks, 2 to 3 weeks away on orders, right? So, and then you're saying that now we're seeing massive numbers of these individuals being deployed for years, right? They're being sent, and that's really impacting our employers and our contracts. So, Dave, that's a great explanation. So let's talk a little bit about. Let's talk about how can a reservist or a National Guard member, once they receive those orders from the federal government that you're now on active duty, how can that service, that military service, how can that impact their work?
I'll jump on that if you don't mind, Darrell.
Please.
I'm Jan Chappelle. I was a reservist. I never got activated, but I did the 2 week stints occasionally. I would assume that since we have such a great working relationship with SMACNA as building trades and production members of the SMART local, that we would then want to go to our employer in a timely manner, maybe even show them the orders and say, hey, here's what's happening. I believe I'm going to get activated for maybe even a year. The end result, I'm not 100% on, but just open that line of communications with your employer, especially if you're in a position of a foreperson or a superintendent or someone that your employer relies on heavily. They need to know that so that they can make a plan of action themselves. Now, your right to deploy, that sounds kind of crazy, but it's protected under the USERRA Act, which is the Uniform Service Employment and Reemployment Rights Act. And it was revisited in 1994 that updates some laws existing back to 1940s. I personally had a job, not while I was in the trades, but I had my job threatened because I took I was going on a 2 week deployment, so to speak. And I had to gently remind the employer that, hey, I gave you plenty of notice. B, this is a protected status that I have. And C, I expect everything to be the same when I get back. So I think really what I'd like to sum up is that you have to keep that line of communication open because the contractor is making a plan and you're in their plan. So they just want to be able to make a plan in a timely manner.
Yeah, and I could not agree more. Communication is key, right? Communication, taking those orders, those federal orders, right? Because let's face it, Uncle Sam says you got to go. No one's really happy about that, right? Your family certainly is. Your contractor isn't. You aren't necessarily happy about it. I can tell you when I received my orders, it was January. I was actually with my wife Jenny, and we were on our anniversary trip, and I got a phone call from the unit, and they said, "You're going overseas." The orders came in, and we were at dinner, and I literally couldn't keep it, like I couldn't hold it together. I went back, sat down with her at dinner, and she's like, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I just got activated. I'm gonna, like, they're saying it's at least a year." Now, suffice to say that dinner did not end well, and I should have tried to work harder to keep that quiet. But it was a hard time, and then you're gone, right? And then the contractor, I recall, I was running a job down near Philly. I was running a large project, and I had to go to my employer, Medlar Board and Rigging at the time, and I had to say, "Hey, like I'm leaving, and we're going to have to get another foreman over here to run this job." So it's hard. But I'll say this. When I went overseas, it was a vast difference between being a union member, and not having that protection because my health care didn't change. Many of my brothers and sisters went on Cobra. I didn't have to. My local kept my insurance going. I got my pension credit. It was all good. And when I came back, the job was waiting on me. I went back out in the field, and it was good. So, Jan, thank you for sharing that. And good point on the
You're
USERRA.
welcome, Darrell. I just wanted to point out one little tidbit of information. As hard as being deployed and doing 2 weeks and all the things that the military service challenges us veterans with, we all signed up for it.
That's right.
We might not be overly happy to have done it, but we're overly proud and honored to have done it.
Roger that.
Darrell, I got a question. Sorry about my ignorance, but in the United States Army, when you get called up, what's the lead time that you have from the call and ready to go?
I got the orders. I got
Yeah.
the call in January. I got the orders at the end of January, and I was in Fort Stewart, Georgia, in March of that same year. So,
Couple months.
yeah, a couple months.
Okay.
It can even be worse than that.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yep. And that's just my experience. There's probably people listening here that had much more, that had different experiences, right? It's communication. Jan said it best, communication. And that's also true for the unit you're serving with. So look, we've had some great questions here. Let's open it up let's do some building the bridge together, right? Let's talk a little bit about how can SMART and SMACNA and the local union strengthen the veterans and military members pathway. How do we strengthen that pathway from that military service to becoming a SMART member, or working within SMACNA, or working as a project manager for SMACNA, within a contractor with SMACNA, or whomever it might be? How do we strengthen that? Some ideas. Let's pitch some ideas here. How do we strengthen that? I know we've heard a few about, communication.
I have one, Darrell. I think would be that would help strengthen a veteran's transition along from the local. And again, I'm going to keep pounding benefits, guys. So if you get tired of hearing about it, I'm not sorry, because you guys are entitled to them, and I want to see you collect them. So again, an SCO, a school certifying official, and that's someone that has the ability to get on a VA enrollment manager and submit your hours for benefits. So having someone there in a training center or there in the union office being able to submit those hours for you is very important. One thing I will say to a transitioning veteran with an apprenticeship on the job training program, if you do not submit 120 hours in a month, you will not receive full benefits. So what you can elect to do is not submit for a month that you don't have 120 hours, i.e. you hit a big rain out and you're only submitting 110. You're not submitting 120. You can elect to not submit for that month, so your benefits don't get collected and you don't get that. You're not receiving a benefit month that's not a full benefit month, if you get my picture. You can also take those benefits and not report them every month and save them up on a quarterly basis. Don't get too carried away and save them up for too long, but you can do that and get a bigger check instead of doing it every month. There's some different options there. Again, reach out with questions. But that would be my first suggestion to any local, is to get that person on staff, get them the training, recognize what the training is. Again, va.gov, or myself, Jay Moore, at sheetmetal-iti.org, and we'll get you on the right path to getting you set up so you can submit those the benefits for the veterans in your programs.
So what I'm hearing is reach out to Joshua for all questions in regards to that transition and strengthen that pathway. I'm joking, but
that's fine. Seriously, to qualifying benefits when getting into apprenticeship, do not hesitate to reach out. I can get you all the information that you need. Either myself or H2H has all the information on what you need for an apprentice entering your program.
Joshua, you do great work there at Smart Heroes and ITI, and no doubt. Josh Garner, you and I spoke a little bit today about some pieces that we're discussing, right? Working with General President Michael Coleman and his desire to see more veterans being helped. Like, you and I discussed some different pieces and what exists already at some of our locals, right? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, one of the things we're working toward is building out a resource page, connecting our transitioning veterans with links that will assist them. It'll tie to Smart Heroes. It'll tie to Helmets, Hardhats, our government resources. There's resources out there that will assist in that transition. So we want to try to identify them, put them together in one location where they're easily accessible. And then to take it a step further, work with our locals to build a local veterans association where we have key mentors that can assist in dealing with the rank and file members on a day-to-day basis or as issues and needs come up. So there's just a couple things to be looking for in the future.
Solid point. I was talking to Lance Diet, AGP, Assistant General President Lance Diet, just came on board. He was talking today about local, we were talking about Local 66 Veterans Committee and who heads that up. And I know 265, 19, there's many locals, 20, 18, there are many, many locals. And if I'll start saying local numbers, I'll get myself in trouble. But many locals already have veteran committees and are doing strong, strong work, whether it's helping veterans, right? Helping them at their homes and doing smart Army events where we're going out and replacing HVAC, and we're doing, so many things to assist. And these veteran committees are already in place. And what we want to do, what Josh and I and Dave and many others under, General President Coleman's leadership, is to say, how do we collect all those pieces? How do we find best practices and how we share it? So strengthening these pathways. Anyone else before we move on to our next piece, which covers our VSO? Jason, go ahead.
A little bit of that. It's something that hasn't been brought up, and I was just thinking about it. It's popped in my head. Per our smart Constitution, Article 16, Section 8, limited special dues for anyone going into the service. Drops the dues down to $1.25 a month. That's paid by the local. I, in Railroad Mechanical Department, I have a handful of guys on this, and the local sends in a check for 3 or 4 months worth of dues for them. It's $1.25 a month. So if you want to talk about, a union supporting their military brothers and sisters and going active and getting activated and going in, I think that's something that needed to be brought up.
No, it's massive.
That's major help.
Yeah. If you guys don't know much about it, like I deal with it all the time with my locals, but it's right in the Constitution, Article 16. You can find it. It's pretty helpful.
Yep. And I'll say that when I was deployed for that year, my local pay covered the dues. So you're right, is massive. Great point, Dave. Good supporting piece. I got to tell you, I'm glad that we were able to do this call and pull everyone together and speak on these items. And I know we could speak so much more, but I want to really get into, as we're getting toward the tail end of this, I really want to get into, I want to spotlight some of our Helmets to Hardhats program. I want to spotlight both in the United States and Canada, right? I want to spotlight the Smart Heroes program. I ran Helmets to Hardhats for about 14 years at the national level. I ran a state program in PA for about 1.5 years on a state grant, and then I was the executive director for Helmets to Hardhats for 14 years before I came home to international. And it was some of the most, some great work there. And H2H has been in existence since 2003. They work on helping those military members transition. They have a website, helmetstohardhats.org. You can go there, find those MOS codes. You can find those various pieces. They have regional people that go to military installations. Those regional people will say, hey, you got to think about the union building trades, right? You got to think about those signatory contractors. You got to think about SMACNA. You got to think about all these other areas. And the numbers came out, right? The numbers came out for 2024, and SMART was number 3 of all the trades, the building trades that are assisting in transition. SMART came in number 3 for the most veterans transition. So that is a big kudos to our locals, our contractors for bringing these military members in. And that's of 15 trades overall. So that is a massive, massive piece. And the ones that were ahead of us, IBEW, one of the local unions that was ahead of us. But, we are swinging real good at that goal. And then those military veterans, the regional people will go out from Helmets to Hardhats. They'll talk about it. They'll invite local leaders, JETC coordinators. They'll invite contractors, come to this military base, talk about your craft, talk about your company. Let's entice these veterans to come to H2H and learn about this piece, right? These active duty military people. H2H then goes one step further. They come to the JETCs. They come to our councils. They come to our conference. They talk about employing veterans. They invite contractors and trades, the locals, the JETCs, to post opportunity. When are you taking applications? What are the requirements? Can anything transition? And then that goes in the website. So the military person comes in on one website. On one side, they sign up. They start looking for careers where they're going home to. Our contractors, our trades, our JETCs, they're posting the opportunities. And then there's a connection made, right? Emails happen, phone calls happen. They follow the instructions that's on the website, and boom, right? We got a veteran or soon to be veteran talking to a JTC coordinator, talking to a contractor, making that transition, or they're talking to a military veterans committee member from a local, right? Which is amazing, amazing work. That's how H2H works in a nutshell. But let's go to Norman. Norman, you're going to tell us about how it works in Canada.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, at H2H Canada, we're the sisters of the sister unit of you guys. You've been formed in 2003, and we started in 2012 by the same guys with Joseph Maloney. He's a boilermaker, and he's the founder of H2H Canada, and I think he was involved also with the United States. Yeah, we connect with all veteran, reservists, regular force personnel, and family members. So it's the family, there's kids there at 17 years old, is in the base room. On the basement, they don't know what to do. And if he's interested in the construction, we're going to take him. And we're going to help him to get into the trade. Definitely. We have strong partnership with all level of government, federal, provincial, and also with union, employer, and training provider. Talking about training, we have an initiative here that now, when a guy is in a transition to leave the forces and want to join the building trade, we now can take that guys and send him to for a five days training for a safety training. So working at height, confined space, elevator platform, name it. So when the guys leave there, he's job ready. So the contractor doesn't have to pay to send him to a safety training. He's already prepared to work. So that's one level that we take care of it. We, like I said, we're in service since 2012, and we will in good pathway to helping a veteran. We do promotion on base, on Army base, Navy base, Air Force, garrison. So we're going there twice a year on each base because we are divided in three areas. So we have the Maritimes group, which is with two guys there working with H2H. We have the Central one, which is myself and one of my colleagues taking care of the Ontario portion and Quebec. So that's why I got that good accent here. So I'm taking care of all the Quebec province. And we have the guys from, and Darrell, you know him, Paul Burry. He's on the western side of it in the north of Canada, the in charge of that area. So we're working two times a year. We visited the base, we visited the union, we visited the 10 reserve brigade, and we promote H2H, what we can do for them. We do not poach people when we go on base. That's not our mandate. Our mandate is to inform the vet or inform the transitioning military if he wants to work, start a second career in the construction. We're there to help them. That's it. We don't go recruiting and we don't poach them. If we do that, the leadership on base are going to kick us out. So definitely,
sure.
So we just professional, and we just want to make sure that we do the right thing, helping soldiers. On the smart side of it, a sheet metal worker, by the way, before I joined the Army and when I was in the school, Darrell and guys, my trade, I studied sheet metal worker. And when I graduated on my grade 11, I decided I was supposed to go into the welders, and I decided to join the Army at 17. So that's why I never worked in the sheet metal worker, but that was a trade that I studied when I was at school. This year we have referred 46 people to SMART in Canada, and I know it's more than that working, but we don't have the right count because sometimes they don't come back to us to let us know, or the local unit business manager or the training corps, they don't always come back to us and say, hey, we have hired one of you guys. So we know we got 43, 46, but we know it's more than that. So that's why. So that's why Helmets to Hardhats works. And like I said, it's a great initiative. It's a great organization. I'm dealing with guys from the state. They get married with a Canadian, right? And they're asking us if they can join us. By all means, they register with us, and that's it. We have a cooperation with H2H US. So sometimes we need to have the form. I forgot the DD something, just to make sure.
DD 214.
That's right. Just to make sure that I can have served the service, have served in the Army, and also retire honorably. So when we have that, we're good to go.
Very good.
Yeah,
Norman,
we have
that's great
partner with
piece.
Windsor. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great piece. I understood every word you said from Kentucky, so I get it. Like there's a little twang there. I get it, right? So
Yeah.
it's good, right, Norman? And that work there, I can tell you that, at the end of the day, tens of thousands of military veterans have made the transition successfully over the years with H2H, both in the United States and Canada.
Right.
Tracking is one of the hardest pieces that we do, but it is a work that we must, and I appreciate the effort you put into it to make sure you're tracking those numbers for SMART. It means a great deal to us.
Yeah.
So,
also, one last point, if I may, Darrell.
Sure.
One of the other initiatives that we have a driver's license in the military. So when the guys was driving big truck, tractor driver, and things like that, and when they leave, they remove the uniform. They couldn't drive anymore on the road. That was stupid. But now in the province, we went with Teamsters and so on. We came in agreement with all the province that the RDND 404, which is a driver's license, is recognized, and the guy can just go there and just switch the driver's license to the civilian driver's license. They cost nothing. They don't need to do any tests. That's all. He got it.
That's amazing.
As long as they meet the provincial standard. But guess what? We oversee the provincial standard, so we're okay.
Sure. Yeah. The solidarity we have with our other trades that to ensure our veterans taken care of is amazing. So let's talk a little bit about Smart Heroes. I mean, that's years ago we started the work on Smart Heroes program. Local 66, Local 9, two amazing locals been doing this work, training active duty personnel. Tell us a little bit about it, Joshua.
Yeah, absolutely, Darrell. Thank you. And also, helmets to hard hats, real quick. I myself send out a list to every training coordinator across the country with a list that Helmets to Hard Hats sends me every week with interested candidates in SMART. So that does go to training coordinators. Another way we work with helmets to get veterans into trades. So just another piece that helmets adds to helping vets get jobs. But yeah, Smart Heroes, like Darrell mentioned, started in 2017 at Local 66 at JBLM, which is Joint Base Lewis McChord. A little background on the two locations. The first one, like I said, JBLM, 2017, just started cohort 50. And ironically, they started cohort 50 on 11/11, which, as you all know, was Veterans Day, which was pretty cool. Those guys and gals will graduate at the start of 2026 with the holidays and their leave and all that stuff. That 7-week course gets a little extended here around the holiday seasons. That particular program has produced a couple organizers, a couple business agents. It's really, we're starting to see the fruits of the labor there at Local 66. Those individuals are now starting to finish their apprenticeships and get through the program. They've had 430 graduates. The instructor up there is Tommy Muma. He's an Air Force veteran. He says if you're ever in the area, stop by Tommy's Tavern. He'd be great to see you. And also a great staff over there with Angela and Allison, Eric, Jeff, and the officers that help us out with coordinating classes and graduations and everything. And then our second location started in 2019 is Colorado Springs, Local 9. Started cohort 35 just now on November 3rd. These cohorts are 1 week apart, so we can make the graduations and coordinate anything that these soldiers may need as far as TDY or anything like that. We've had some folks come from Japan and participate in Smart Heroes. We've had some folks come from different bases, Fort Drum, and participate in the CSPs. They've had 237 graduates. Their new instructor is Andy Rickrell. He's a Local 9 member, former superintendent, a U.S. engineering and a Marine Corps veteran. Great team over there with Charlotte, training director Andy Gillian, Tommy, training coordinator Pete Carlson, and all the full-time officers, again, help with coordination. And Smart Heroes is a CSP, a career skills program that caters to Army individuals that are transitioning out of the service. DOD now gives 180 days to transition out. And when doing so, you can choose to be in a CSP or a skill bridge program. If anybody knows, the Army likes to do everything different, so they're the CSP and everybody else is Skill Bridge. It's a 7-week course. It's 224 hours. It's Tuesday through Friday. We give them Monday to do all of their out processing. Again, these are employees of DoD. They have some things they have to do as they're getting ready to transition out. So that Monday is days for them to do appointments with medical, CIF, and things like that. And what they do in those 7 weeks is just what any apprentice would do in that first year of apprenticeship. They're doing radio line development. They're doing field measuring, drafting, just introductions. Again, it's a 7-week course, 224 hours. Sometimes we get this misrepresentation that when someone takes a sheet metal course, when they graduate, they're a journey worker. And they come to you as a journey worker. Smart Heroes are not that. They've taken 7 weeks of classes and they're coming to you. But what they do come to you as is the ability to make a second-year pay rate. You don't have to start them in the second-year class, but they do start at a little bit higher of a wage rate. And again, we're trying to bridge that wage gap that they take leaving from the military and they're coming and joining an apprenticeship. We often forget veterans didn't pay for medical. They didn't pay for housing. They didn't pay for food. They didn't pay for a lot of things. And if they did have a family, they were given extra compensation to deal with that and to pay for that. So again, we're trying to help them make that transition. And that's why we give them that second-year rate when they do graduate the program. But often we'll start them, or locals will start them as a first year. And to be honest, I like to see that because they kind of start with a new group, because that's what they are too. They're a new apprentice. They're just getting into the program. We start them as a first year, and often they'll forego that 4th or 5th year of apprenticeship and turn out as a journey worker a year early because they'll be given those credit hours for in classroom training. And again, once they graduate, they're going to go back to their unit because they are still enlisted. Many of them usually have 2 weeks to a couple of months. Some may have a little bit longer depending upon what happened with them as far as maybe a medical board, medical leave, or anything going on with VA as far as getting a disability rating. They finish their enlistment and then they go to the training center of their choosing. Oftentimes it's local 66 or local 9. So we now have to do the interview process where we only can take so many from each cohort that want to stay at those 2 locations. So we then open the program up to veterans or active duty spouses. And again, these are as spaces available. We haven't had any of those spouses take advantage yet. We haven't had the space, but veterans and active duty is mainly who we see coming through. If anybody knows about the 2 posts, JBLM and Fort Carson are 2 4ID and 2ID combat arms posts. We do see deployments, so we do see laws sometimes in engagement because of the posts activities, things that are going on with posts and things of that nature, deployments, and also who's in command can also depend on who was allowed to participate in CSPs and skill bridge programs. So we combat with that as well. We also combat getting individuals there. They're there for 7 weeks. We have to get them back and forth to the training center. There's some things that we combat as an organization because we have to remember these are still DoD employees. But we're trying to get them a job in the building trades, i.e. mainly SMART. And this is a CSP that exposes them to that. Week 3, they get the exposure to about 5 or 4 aspects of the trade, 8 hours of architectural, 8 hours of service, 8 hours of BIM, and 8 hours of welding. That 7th week is then 32 hours in that elective that the class elects to take. Typically that's service or welding. And that's Smart Heroes in a nutshell. That's my 10 minutes, Darrell, but a great program. Anybody that's out there that has questions about it, or any veteran entering your program into the apprenticeship, please reach out. I put my email there in the Q&A. It's just again, that transition can be difficult, especially we're taking veterans and we're putting them in another position that can be difficult sometimes. So any way we can help them out is just awesome, and I appreciate everybody that's doing that.
Joshua, thank you so much for that. Big shout out to our partner SMACNA, Aaron Hilger, our General
Absolutely.
President Mike Coleman.
Thank you.
They're always there in support. It doesn't happen without that leadership and creating a culture where we can help them. And this is massive, right? This is massive, and we need to recognize that piece, right? Whether it's Be for All, whether it's our veterans coming in, whether it's Smart Heroes, that leadership ensuring that that's happening is crucial. And Joshua, thank you for all those points. There was a lot there, right? If you're listening to this move right now, this call, you just heard a lot.
I got PowerPoints and slides I can send anybody that's interested. I'll come in and give you a presentation, whatever you want. We'll get you squared away so you can start submitting some benefits for your vets.
The biggest pieces you're taking from this where to get to us, right? You can get to us, and we'll come out to you, right? We'll provide that service. Or Smart Heroes will, Smart will, SMACNA will. These are the things, right? These are the value. So look, we're getting toward the end, and we're going to get here to the question and answer piece. Now, here's what I want to give you our word on. The question and answer piece, I don't know if we'll get all the questions. However, I know Raphael is going to track all the questions and how we can get them to you. And if we don't get to your question tonight, I give you my word, we'll get the answer to you. We will work on it as a team, and we will get you the answer. So, Raphael, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you hit us with the questions, however you want to handle this.
Yes, sir. Darrell, thank you so much. And I just wanted to say on behalf of the Be for All Learning Journey and Calendar Subcommittee, we just wanted to extend our heartfelt thanks for participating in this discussion. We appreciate the time, the thought, and expertise that all of you shared with our audience. And most importantly, thank you all for your service. It's greatly appreciated. It's inspiring, and we're grateful for your dedication to public service. So thank you to everyone on the panel. We do have a few questions here, so I'm going to try to combine one. There were a couple of people that asked about the mental health aspect of veterans, right? For example, Sheena asked, can you all comment on the possible mental health challenges veterans may deal with and the tools that are available to help with these challenges? And John Harris also asked how many service members that are transitioning to the trade, how many of those members need extra help due to PTSD? Are we ready to support these members that are facing those challenges?
I'll take a shot at some of these. So I don't know the number, right? Even when I ran Helmets to Hardhats, I couldn't tell you the number because there was a massive number coming in. I can tell you that service from the VA or from veteran service organizations, the local contractor, even what we've done at the international with our EAP programs or the locals EAP programs, there are support there, right? So I would say, don't know the answer to how many, but yes, there are support systems there. I want to open it up to the rest of the panelists in regards to, maybe some of the trials and tribulations mentally that maybe you faced. I mean, I know I had a few, but please, anyone else want to jump on that first part of that question?
Well, from the H2H in Canada, we did have to deal with a couple of our vets that really struggle with mental health. But suffice to say that the UA and all other trade have their own service for mental health. And it's become very, very
same in the United States.
Yeah, but we also have from our VA in Ottawa a group that can contact directly that person from us, and we put them in contact, and they do what they have to do. But for so far we have dealt with 3 guys, so that's not bad.
No, and I think, look, the culture and the assistance, regardless of military service or not. I mean, there are many people who are facing items and issues, and that help is there, right? Jan, please.
Of course, this is for an acute response to some PTSD, but our SMART app has the "Are you in a crisis?" You can press that button and it'll lead you to a number you could call, and they always answer the phone. And I believe that's sponsored through SMOHIT.
Yeah, great team from Smoke
Another
doing great
acronym.
work there. Yes, Smoke, but that's internal. That's family. So we're good. We don't have to explain that one. I'll tell you, one of the issues I faced when I came back, when I was deployed, I was it was very it was, how do I describe this best? So it was, you're a squad leader, you got 6 individuals with you, you're going through villages every day, there's things going on, stuff's happening. And then you come home and you're like immediately back in the civilian side, and then you're back in the field, you're running work. And for a time, first of all, I came back to my house. Let's go to that first part. And I came into my house. My wife had been taking care of the children. She'd been running a household. I'd been gone for a year. She was the boss. And I walked in there thinking I was Staff Sergeant Roberts. And I got told real quick I was Private Roberts. And she'd let me know when it was time for me to be able to take on some responsibilities of working in the household. So I learned that lesson real quick. And then the same thing on the job site. I went to the job site and I was telling, the journeymen that were working with me in the apprentices, I'd be like, move this, do this, boom, boom. And I was very direct about they were orders. And I got reminded at one point, a good journeyman pulled me aside and said, "Hey man, you gotta you're still there. We need you here. Like, you're working with us, right? We're not in the military anymore." And I had to learn that. So next question.
Okay, we've got a question from Aaron Bailey. Are there things that we as trade unionists misunderstand about what a veteran is looking for in the trades?
Anyone on the team? First of all, who's this Aaron Bailey we speak of? And then second of all, let's go. Anyone on the team? Say that one to me again. So read it again.
Are there things that we as trade unionists misunderstand about what a veteran is looking for in the trades?
I don't know if it's a misunderstanding. And please, who else was going to answer? Go ahead.
Dave, I don't think as if we're looking for something. We just want to work. You know what I mean? We're used to the structure when you were in active duty or even in the reservist status. Even in reserves, when you're only there for 2 days a month, there's stuff that you have to get done in them 2 days. You know what I mean? You want to complete, you want to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And we're just used to that. And once you get into that role, it to me, it just transfers over right to being an apprentice or a journey person. We have to, all these jobs have a due date. We work ourselves out of work every time we go to a job. And same thing when you're deployed or when you're at training, you want to get the job done so you can come home.
Yep.
And I don't think anyone is misconstrued by that. It's just, when you're active and when you're in training status, you just move a little different. And I can understand I had to realize that I'm not allowed to use cuss words every other word. You know what I mean? And sometimes my shop talk, it comes out every now and then, and I respond a way that it's not appropriate. And I have to remind myself that some of these young folks ain't used to that type of talk. So I have to apologize and then strike the record and then start all over, or just let them know, man, when you come from the service into the trades, no matter what, you still want to do good work. The quality, the attention to detail, all of that is what we do. And that's the same thing you do when you're on a 10-story building, hanging ductwork, or whatever the task you're given. So I don't think there's anything misconstrued. It's just we're used to getting our orders and going to work. Getting our orders, going to work. Getting our
Well
orders,
said.
getting to a point of the job so that it's ready to, come in. The next guys come in and start grilling out or whatever, what I mean, whatever the case may be. But, just the structure is there for on the service side, and the structure is there on the union apprenticeship side. And if you follow that structure, you have a chance to succeed and to be very, very resourceful and to help lead other people.
That's good. It's a solid point. So when we get to another one, Raphael, so we can get a couple more. I know we're holding people a little bit further. Dave, that was a great answer, by the way. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. So there's this is kind of a two-part question from John Harris. I combined the two. Was your family happy when you joined the trades and got out of the service? And if you had, knowing what you know now, would you still choose the same path and join the service or come straight to the trades?
Dang, that's a good one.
I can answer that one too.
Well, hold on, Dave. Dave, I'm excited for you to answer this, but I want to open it up to the rest of the panelists first.
Yep.
That if no one else wants it, I'm gonna give it to Dave.
I'll take it.
Darrell, I
Right.
would just the second part of the question, because I didn't necessarily have a family at the time. So would I do it all over again? Absolutely. I think I owe everything to my time in the service, and it helped me get to where I am today. So yeah, I would do it all over again.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Josh. It's you wouldn't be where we are now if we didn't do what we did then. It's made us who we are, and we've been able to take what we had there and use it in our careers. It's gotten us where we are.
Totally agree.
Jan,
Yeah, totally agree.
Dave, Jan, jump in there.
I have to do a 3, 4, 5-peat on that. At 18, almost 19, I was talking to $250 million worth of airplanes and controlling them. And I sometimes say, they're not like us when I talk about a 19-year-old then versus a 19-year-old today. The military taught me great responsibility and shaped who I am, and my personality would not even be close to what it is without that humble beginnings of going into the military. I'm proud
well
of it.
said.
And if I could speak on that real quick, yeah, I think definitely do it again. I think each chapter, even for me, just growing up in construction, learning good work, good ethic, going to the military, that's a whole different chapter, learning more discipline and then everything else and coming out and going to the trades. Like just one chapter builds on top of the other, and you're always, it just keeps growing. You want to keep serving, you want to better yourself, better your community and keep building yourself up, right? But each path, each chapter of your life that you went through to bring us here, if you're in the military, you're here for a reason. And that military played a big part of it, at least for me. And I think I can't speak for everybody, but I think we all have that in common.
I say this, Darrell, at most Smart Heroes graduations, and I joined the military 20 days out of high school. I was in boot camp, and it was probably the best decision of my life. It pointed me in the right direction because I was going down the wrong path, and the military definitely turned me into a better man. But my union changed my life. It changed my life. It truly did. Getting an apprenticeship and getting into my local not only changed my life, it changed my family's life. So the military got me started. For sure, I wouldn't change it for anything, but a great path. And again, thank everybody that's on this, doing this, man. Thank you.
Totally agree.
Dave Moore, you want to bring us home? You want to throw in your piece on that?
Well, yes, sir. My response was I had no choice but to succeed. You know what I mean? I came home, did 2 years, went right into the reserves, I fell into a union truck driving job at a union shop, and then I found out tenors make X amount of money. How do I get there? I had to succeed. I had no choice but to make it work. And from coming from the service side or the military side, it made that push easier. You know what I mean? Because you understood that I got to get this done. I have to be fit. I have to be ready. I have to complete this because I know it's going to change my life and my young kids' life at the time. And without the military and without the trades right now, as a smart member, I don't know where I'd be. I'm grateful, and I got a great family. 3 college graduates, and all because of being able to work and earn an honest living, great benefits, and just being in the trades, and in the last 5 years, the friendships that we've made, phenomenal. I can't
That's awesome.
complain anything about the trades. The like you said earlier when we started this thing, I met guys from Alaska to the Virgin Islands,
Yep.
and you all people laugh at me all the time when I go somewhere. I run into somebody that you know from a job site, from service.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many people that you can run into on accident with the same like-minded stuff that we do every day. So the trades have
I
been
hear you.
wonderful to me and my family.
Perfect. All right, Ralphie, I'm gonna leave this to you. We're 6 minutes over our stop time. If you want to ask us another question, you can, or I can go into the closing piece. Your call.
Yes, sir. One more. This is about Smart Hero. So again, another two-part question. This came from Doug Myers and Scott Olson. They've heard great things about Smart Heroes, and they're asking if there's any interest in expanding or any talk of expanding the program nationwide. And the second part to that question is, have you faced any roadblocks that's prevented you from expanding the program nationwide?
The biggest thing is logistics. A CSP or skill bridge program cannot cost a participant any money. So we have to be close to the base. We have to have enough people transitioning out of that base that can participate in the CSP to fill a class every 8 weeks to keep someone gainfully employed as an instructor. And then we also, while they're there, they have to be able to get back and forth to the training center for 7 weeks. They have to have housing and they have to have food. And a lot of that can be taken care of by the military if they get TDY. But honestly, any lower
So
junior
define
enlistment,
define TDY.
temporary duty. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
And what'll happen is they'll get those allowances, but typically junior enlisted aren't getting TDY to go participate in the CSP. So those are the biggest hurdles that we face. And again, Smart Heroes is only a CSP. We are not a skill bridge. The Army, again, does things a little bit different. So their CSPs are advertised to their participants, where a skill bridge it's up to the participants to find the programs. So a little bit different. And those are the main hurdles. And again, financing, logistics, the typical hurdles that you would think of for any kind of program.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we look at it constantly. Is there a base that we can get access to, that we can? And we've talked a bunch, and we've been in the process of almost opening a new location, and the base command changes, and then the whole deal gets shut down, and things, and no one wants to participate, and no one. So there's been some issues and some roadblocks. Just different things that we just keep trying to overcome and open. So we'd love to see one on the East Coast. But yeah, those are the biggest things that we face.
So let's define real quick one thing. So every base, there's a rule out there that says Smart Heroes can be on a base, right? But it's up to the base commander, that individual, that changes every 3 years, whether
Yes.
they allow them to be there. So
Right.
they're basically on that base.
Yeah, we faced this here this year at Fort Carson, where we had a 2-star that was bucking to be a 3-star, and he was going to get his 3rd star by recruitment and retention. And the way he was going to get recruitment and retention is he wasn't going to allow participants to participate in CSPs. So those are other hurdles that we face. Political hurdles, depending upon who's in command on the base. So. 4ID at the time, they were heavy rotation into Poland, Korea, things of that nature. So again, that we lose participants. So
we always have to keep in
hurdles.
mind that the main function of the military is to be able to perform the orders they are given. And whether it's in Korea, whether it's in Iraq, whether it's Afghanistan, whatever it may be, they have to be able to perform those duties. And we fall very, very low on that list. So look, this is, and Joshua, he's going to do a great job explaining it, but we can keep going down this hole. But look, we're at the end of it. We're going to wrap this up. Raphael, you have the ability to track down the people that have asked the questions that we didn't answer?
Yes.
Okay, then we will get those answers. This team will work on getting answers out. Each of us will take a few questions and we'll get the answers. But let me close it out with this. Raphael, to you and your team, thank you very much for the Be for All, for the learning journey and capability, the ability for us to be here, to allow us to be able to speak on a subject that is near and dear to us, right? To be able to help our fellow veterans, to be able to help the union we love, to be able to help our contractors, the industry overall. It means a great deal to us. And, you know, at the end of the day, what we hope we got across to you was that there is a military people out there, there's personnel out there that don't know about our careers that we need to make them aware of. There are people that are going to make that transition, and we need to support that culture, that mentorship, and those other pieces. And we're doing great work, but we can always improve in everything we do. And we appreciate you and welcoming us into SMART and giving us a home. And we'll do our best to ensure that we're always delivering the best we can in what we do. I have nothing more.
Well, thank
you,
you,
Raphael.
Thank you. Thank you, Darrell.
Thank you,
to the
everybody.
panelists. Thank you.
Thank you to everybody for their service.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Merci.
Yeah.